A little bit about yourself.
I grew up in a Polish household.
Okay,
I'm a
perfect.
first generation American.
Mhm.
So I grew up uh, just like speaking Polish in my house. And I also grew up in a family that's like everyone in my family has a career in medicine or is aspiring to have a career in medicine.
That's
I'm
cool.
like the black sheep. I'm the only one who like wanted to go to art school
You got the
or do
creative bug.
anything like remotely creative, and that was like really challenging for my parents for sure. They were they so like the reason why my parents even pursued medicine in the first place was kind of like to get an out to go to America, so
Gotcha.
that if they moved to America, if they got the green card, then
Mhm.
they could start making a living. Because I think in their heads it's like they were living in communism. And so they were just like, I want to strive for a career that'll make me like a lot of money, and like
For
it was
sure.
not like driven by passion so much. It wasn't.
Mhm.
Well, now it is. I think that my parents are happy with like their jobs now, but I
Yeah.
don't think that originated from like a desire to do that
Yeah.
necessarily. So it was like a very like flipped thing for them to have a kid who is
Mhm.
all about passion. They were like reluctant for me to go to art school, but they now are like my biggest supporters, and they're
That's
like,
great.
I can't imagine our kid doing anything else.
That's
I would be an awful doctor. I like, and they're like, yeah, yes,
I get it.
yes.
Mhm.
So that's like my story, I guess, my background.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. Do you think that that's kind of like influenced your designs, like when you put, or like when you design your sweaters? Do you think that that kind of background has influenced that style, or you're coming from a Polish household? Do you think that's influenced it at all?
It definitely has in the past.
Gotcha.
Um, I so every summer when I was a kid, I'd go to Poland. Usually, I'd go to Poland, and I'd go to like I'd see some cities, but I would also mainly go to like farmland areas,
Okay.
like the countryside.
Mhm.
And everybody, everybody I like have met around is so friendly and so free, as opposed to like I grew up in New Jersey. So
Gotcha.
everybody in like town, my
Mhm.
town was like more uptight. So I was very like shocked by like not I don't know, not even culture shock, because I see it in like my parents and my family, but I felt more like I fit in when I was in Poland
Yeah.
as a kid. And I also just I loved seeing the nature and the greenery, and like uh and what else, like even the houses there,
I'm sure.
and there's like different animals there too. There's like bisons.
Oh, that's cool.
it's
Yeah.
like it's like a little crazy. But Polish people are also like very kooky. I've like learned through these trips.
Uh-huh.
Very very kooky people. Like there's like touristy spots of, you know, like castles and stuff, but there'll be like almost like road signs that'll be like, watch out ghosts, or by
No.
the castle, like by a touristy spot, or if you're like in a more rural area where there's like just like people would live there might be signs like, watch out, like a bison could cross the road,
Mhm.
because they're just wild animals.
Yeah.
And I like, that's such a culture shock to me. I was like, wow, I love that people are able to just be so free. And it's also I think it's mainly just because um these people, like these generations, were so used to being oppressed that they started to rely on each other as a community, and relying on uh friendship and family.
For sure.
And like my mom and dad always told me stories where they were like, you know, everybody grew up, we all had the same things. Like nobody stole from each other. Everybody helped each other out because we were all hurting. It was like a really hard time for everybody. And so through that, there was like a lot of, I guess, wholesomeness that where I grew up in New Jersey is like lacking in, because there was like a super white neighborhood, upper middle class.
Yeah.
People just cared if you like wore Abercrombie, you know that era. So it did influence my work in a way of like, how can I make something that is free and that is fearless in a way that it's just almost like me speaking through color and through texture, regardless of like if it's something that someone would conventionally wear or if it's something that fits with a trend.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that I actively am thinking when I'm making something, I don't think I'm like, what inspired this? I think I'm just like, I really want to use these like few colors together and see what happens. Or sometimes I'll experiment and think like, what colors do I think just don't go together, or colors that I wouldn't use, and I try to like challenge that.
Yeah.
I did do a residency, an artist residency in Brooklyn at this place. It's called the Textile Arts Center. And that place is like, the artists there who are working there are very fine arts oriented. And I realized, wow, I used to be super, super fine art. I used to like only paint and draw. And then I sort of flipped onto like this design side. And so the residency was a really great challenge for me to be like, how can I like mesh together like my design brain with my fine art brain? So I started knitting sweaters that mirrored my feelings at the time when I was knitting them. So that was like why I mentioned that I would just choose colors that I don't think go well together, because, you know, maybe that feeling was being uncomfortable or angry.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think my inspiration kind of shifts from like, how am I feeling, or what do I want to be comforted by? Sometimes it's just like, I just want to knit and I want to feel comforted in that way.
How did you get started with knitting?
With knitting. So I went to school at the Rhode Island School of Design, RISD, and I was in the textile program. Okay. So we were taught how to knit on knitting machines and how to weave and how to dye fibers. We were just taught about just general fiber knowledge as well. And we had like all these classes going on at once, so you couldn't really dedicate your time you had to dedicate your time equally, basically. You couldn't like focus on one thing. And learning how to knit on that machine was so hard. I hated it so much. And the thing about domestic knitting machines, that's what they're called. They're called domestic knitting machines. They're not made anymore. They're not manufactured anymore. So they're like vintage. So
you're trendy.
They're hard to come by. You have to go on like eBay and Etsy to get them. So I have no idea how my school got them. My school has like 50 of them. It used to be way cheaper too, but like the thing is, because they're limited in supply and we're all just like learning how to use them, a lot of people would use them wrong and break them. And so we would have to like have them repaired by like a tech in the school. You can order parts for them still. Those are somehow still manufactured. I don't understand that. But the machines, no. So the purpose of learning on those machines is so that we can understand how to program for industrial knitting machines like later on in the years, but we start out on the domestic knitting machines. So I hated knitting. I thought it was like the most frustrating thing in the world. If like the key is like you have to learn how to catch mistakes, and that's very hard in the beginning. So you every time, every 5 minutes something will go wrong. And like you can't, like if you you have to stay like calm. You can't like throw anything or slam your hand or anything, like, because you might break it. So
So it's like
a lot of people would just be crying.
yeah. Oh, that would be me. I'd be like, I give up. I can't
Yeah.
do this.
A lot of people are crying in the studio. It like that was the first year of learning how to knit, but then my junior year in college, I landed an internship with this designer in Florence,
Oh, cool.
and so she's a fashion designer who also teaches at a liberal arts school in Florence.
Mhm.
So I flew over there, and originally I was gonna be her assistant and like help her with line sheets and help her with adjusting garments and even making some garments for her. But then at the same time, she was like, "Oh, it would be cool if we like did a knitting collaboration." And so I started knitting samples for her, and then she was like, "Actually, I really just want you to focus on a knitting collaboration. So like you could just stop being my assistant and just like, and we'll work on this collaboration together."
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. And so we knitted. That was my first time knitting a garment that was like real, that
Yeah.
could fit on someone and not be like sloppily made. Because a
Yeah.
lot of the garments out of the knitting classes in the beginning at my school, nobody knows how to make clothes. We were never taught how to make clothes. We're not apparel majors.
Yeah.
So we kind of just had to wing everything. It was great to work with this designer because her name's Eva DiFranco. I'll like link my collab with her so that it like makes sense in the end. But she actually like would draft patterns for me and be like, this is like what I want this to be shaped like, and I would convert the pattern to a knitting pattern. I'd be like, wow, this is like making clothes doesn't have to be a complicated thing like I thought it would be. Like it can actually be really simple, and you can make something that's still really beautiful.
For sure.
So that's when I started thinking like maybe I should give knitting a chance. Maybe knitting is cool. And I loved it. For my senior year, in most art schools, you have to do like a thesis project, a degree project. That's what they called it. And so for that year, I focused on making a line of clothes, like four outfits, I think, maybe three. That was like my official start into making clothes on my own.
Gotcha.
And then when I got into my residency after graduating, my plan in my life was, well, I want to work on the residency. I want to knit apparel through my residency. I want to start an online store or like a brand like in the future, but I don't have anything to really sell, so it's kind of pointless.
Yeah.
I knitted a lot during the residency. I had like a lot of things I made that I felt were really cool, but I was like, this isn't quite like what I'm going for with this program. And my idea was that around like May or June, when the residency's ending, I'll be applying for jobs. But then COVID happened, and now there's no jobs really. I was like, well, this is a perfect time to start an online store.
I know. Yeah.
So I started my shop in like maybe after December, maybe January, I think it was.
Okay.
So it's still very new.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like my knitting journey.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Did you face any like specific struggles getting started, like with your whole business?
Oh my God. I don't I feel like every day is like just like scrambling. I think that my biggest struggle in the beginning, it still is the beginning for me really, but like in the very, very beginning, I think my biggest struggle was figuring out pricing and figuring out how much my work is worth.
Definitely.
Because so the residency that I have like gives us an opportunity to have a mentor. So my mentor, her name is Caroline Kaufman. She's a very famous fiber artist who does like rug tufting. It's like amazing.
Yeah.
And she has her own store where she sells paintings that she does. And she was like, Marta, like, your work is, great. But like, if you're concerned that like people won't be buying like a $300 sweater, then maybe you should just have items that are tiered in different price points so that people can still have accessibility, despite whatever they can afford. And it's not even like coming from a place of judgment, because I can't afford a $500 sweater, but I sell them. Like, so that's how I started doing scrunchies. I was considering doing socks, but for now I just have scrunchies, and I have sweaters that are at different price points.
Yeah.
I have some sweaters that just take less time to knit, so that they're able to be sold for less. And I was also working on a collaboration with this brand, The Series, whose focus is on sustainability and making clothes that are genderless and sizeless and just all around inclusive.
Yeah.
So I was like how can I knit a sweater that won't take super long time, so it won't be super expensive, that can work with her price points, but also like work with these ramifications of being genderless? Because in the past, because I haven't been trained how to make clothes, I've only made clothes for myself because I was just learning off of my own body. So I was like, okay, so how am I going to make different sizes? How is this going to work? And I don't know. I finally had a chance to sit down and think it out and make a pattern that isn't gendered, which is the cross weave sweaters.
Yeah, those are beautiful.
So we had like a shoot where there was guys and girls modeling for it, and it was really cool and really fun. And that helped me kind of like working with those people, with Caroline and with Ella from the series, kind of helped me figure out how to price things and how to start thinking like you're running a store and not thinking like an artist necessarily. Or just being able to think in both ways.
Yeah, like the
be able to combine those things.
Very important.
Because I think it's important to still be able to be an artist.
So what would you say inspires you to like continue just with everything? Because it is difficult for sure.
Oh my God. I think what inspires me to continue is because I've been doing it for so long and because I love it. And there's also people who have faith in what I do, people who know me and people who don't know me, which is like what amazes me. And also what inspires me to keep going is that I see people actively doing it now, who are doing it successfully, people who are specifically working in slow fashion, who are making garments by hand. And that like amazes me, even if they're not like necessarily sourcing materials in a sustainable way that's eco-friendly. It's still so much better that they're making it by hand, and it's so much more ethical too. And like now, after being a slow fashion designer, I have realized that I just shop way less. And I'll be willing to buy something that's like $300 because I'm so in love with it, and I won't shop for like 2 months. And I love it, and I'm just like, wow, I have this like amazing skirt, and everybody's complimenting it, and everybody's like, wow. And I only hope that people feel that way when they buy my things.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I think that's the thing that I've learned just kind of through this whole process with the people that I meet and stuff like that, is it's like there's so many incredible things that they make. And I kind of same thing. I told my husband, I was like, I would much rather buy something that's more expensive, but I know I'm getting my money's worth. And also like, I feel like it's so cool to have like a story behind it. Like somebody made this for me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And you'll have like excellent customer service because it's like a small business, you know?
Well, and it feels like you're making lots of friends too. You're like, I love it. Let's be friends. Sure. What have you learned along the way then?
I learned that I need to be patient with myself, or not be so hard on myself with I don't know, I feel like I have to have a lot of things done that just isn't necessarily possible to be done
Yeah.
all at once. My
Mhm.
parents were like, Martha, you just want to succeed, you just want to have success like right away, but that's just not how it works.
Yeah.
So that's what I have learned along the way, is that I gotta try to take it easy and be organized.
So what's
Yeah.
your best piece of advice you would give somebody who wants to get where you're
Oh my lord.
at? I asked the
I
hard questions.
Yeah. I would say that you like you should focus on making things that you like and that you want, and not things that you think that someone would want to buy.
Yeah.
Or because like if you're thinking of, well, what would people want to buy, then you're thinking in a way as if you're working for someone else,
Hmm.
when in reality you're working for you. And this is like, my business is my baby, and I'm working on my baby, and I'm going to do what what works for me, and I'm going to make whatever I want. And then like the business aspect comes second in
Yeah.
that kind of sense.
Hmm.
You can look at like the sales aspect and see like what's selling, what's not selling, and then adjust based off of there. It's definitely like a trial and error process.
Yeah.
Like I said, I wanted to make socks, but I was like, nah, like no one really cares about these socks, so the
Hmm.
socks are out. People are like in love with scrunchies, so okay, like that seems to be working.
Yeah.
um I like making scrunchies too. I like, they're all one of a kind, which I think is really fun, and people seem to find that fun too. And it's like this good combination of doing what works for me, what I want to do,
Hmm.
and something that people will buy.
Yeah, for sure. It's always like that. It's the delicate balance of trying to keep what you love, and not have it be a chore, right?
It's also important to just like be like, reach out to people.
Mhm.
Like, don't be afraid. Okay, this is my key advice,
Okay.
is to not be afraid to reach out to people, even to like DM them. You can email them, whatever, but like um before I worked with the series, I had like 500 followers,
Yeah.
and she has like 10K followers, I think. Off the top of my head, I think that's what she has. And I DM'd her. I was like, "Oh my god, I love your work. Like, I would love to like collab with you." And
Hmm.
she said yes, and she was like, "Sure.
Yeah.
Like, your work is awesome. Like, it doesn't matter how many followers you have. Like, just like be ballsy, like do it. Like, the worst thing that can happen is they're just not going to answer you." The same thing happened. I messaged this other designer, Tyler McGillivray,
Hmm.
who has like 100,000 followers. She's like she's famous.
Yeah.
And I sold like 3 sweaters through her site.
Oh,
And I was like, "Oh my god. Like, these people are viewing my work, and that's really cool." And it was all because I just, like put myself out there, and I
yeah.
said hello.
Hello.
Um and it just becomes easier from there.
Yeah. Is there a piece that you've made that you're really proud of, or especially proud of?
The pieces for my residency,
Yeah.
I'm so proud of.
Hmm.
When I like got my limelight on TikTok, someone like bought one for pre-order, and
Oh.
it's like a $500 sweater. It's like my first like major purchase, and that
Hmm.
happened very recently. That happened like within the past 2 weeks, and I was like, "Oh my god, like my work matters enough for someone to spend that much money on it."
Yeah.
I was like, this is crazy. Yeah, so these are the works that I made, 2 pieces that I made for my thesis show at RISD.
Yeah. I
And
love
then
the colors.
thank you. This knitwear collection was like inspired by my mom's clothes from when she was like in her 20s and 30s.
I love that.
I was looking through like pictures of her, and I was also like looking through some of her clothes and belongings that she gave me, and also like some stuff that she bought for me that she like picked out for me.
Oh, that's super.
So yeah, it was like really crazy to do. It was like the craziest knitting experience. These are samples that I did for my residency before I really had sweaters, I would say. And I was playing around with
pillows. I was like, those would be cool pillow designs.
That's true. That's true. They're all made of like wool and mohair.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they would survive as pillows, which is kind of sad because like moths might eat them.
Oh yeah.
So that's like the that's like the sucky side. Yeah, I plan to like frame these and have them on my wall like a painting.
That's so cute. I love
So
it.
I think that will like be the most practical way of having them.
Yeah.
This is my first sweater that I made.
This sweater, I have to tell you, is my favorite.
It's the TikTok one.
Yeah. Okay, that's probably why. But I saw this and I was like, oh my gosh, it's gorgeous.
Thank you. Seriously. I'm gonna like, yeah. So like the reason why it can't be sized in different sizes is because I start knitting right here. Do you see my mouse? Yes. Is that okay? Thank God. Thank God that's visible. But it's like I knit it like this. Like it's knitted like a triangle.
That's so interesting.
So the maximum width of the machine is from this point all the way up to somewhere around here.
Gotcha.
So you can't make the width of it different.
Yeah.
It's just fixed. So that's like a problem. That's like what I was kind of trying to explain with like the machine limitations is that like this can technically only be one size unless I maybe knit additional fabric to make it bigger.
For sure.
But like it can't make it smaller, that's for sure. I can only try to make it bigger.
Yeah, seriously, it is so beautiful. And I looked at your website, like, oh my gosh, is it available? I was like, oh.
I mean, it is now. I made it available now. I don't know if anyone's gonna buy it. For pre-order, Jesus. I have to find the pattern for making these black stripes, but I could probably make it for somebody. I don't know. Sure. I made this sweater just recently.
You too. Like I'm like seriously, I'm thinking because I'm from Utah and it's freezing here, and so I'm like, oh, these are beautiful. I want them.
It's like it's thin enough where you can like wear it if it's like 50 degrees out and it's fine.
Which is perfect because Utah's weather is unpredictable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it's blizzarding, sometimes it's 50 degrees. We never know what we're gonna get.
Jeez. The third sweater is not in this. I didn't have it photographed, so I just have these two. Thank you. In continuation though, this is more of like my thesis stuff from school. I recreated my mom's bathing suit that I saw in a picture, so that's why
I love it.
That's how that happened. There's this one I saw her in this like crazy like poncho bodysuit, but it was like puffy. It was like a winter coat, but with pants. I think it was like ski pants and a winter coat. She had her photograph taken, but it was on a beach. And I was like, I don't understand this photograph at all. But I'm gonna knit something that's just like crazy and it has like a similar colorway.
Yeah, I love how unique the pieces are. Like they're just so different.
Thank you. I mean, it was like my artistic endeavor for college, so I was like, I'm gonna like be as creative as possible and as unconventional as possible for like realistic clothing.
Yeah.
So I would just like went crazy. I was like, it's whatever, a wool bathing suit. Why not?
What the heck?
Just like in like the 40s.
Yeah.
This is like an industrially knitted blanket I had made at school, and it's with all of my mom's like clothes and my messy room. I incorporated like some stories into it, some like personal family, or I guess like mother-daughter stories.
It's on my bed. Like, it's so pretty.
I have it right here.
Do you?
Just like chilling.
Oh
It's right here.
It's so cute.
It's very fun.
Yeah.
It's my baby.
I bet.
And I can never have it made again because I don't have access to an industrial knitting machine, but the plan is to one day have. So I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, it's special to you, right? So
yes. I mean, my goal with like these clothes was like, in theory, I still have this feeling about the things that I make that are more personal, is like, I want to, since like my mom gave me some of these clothes to have, I really connected with my mom through her clothes, but I wanted to make something that if I ever have a daughter or maybe a niece or someone who likes I don't know, like girly things. I don't want to call my work girly.
I like girly things.
I mean, I guess like the thought is like I would like to make these to give to someone who's special to me, but in a way where I'm like their like mentor or mother or auntie or something.
Yeah, that is so special. That's
like a family rooted thing. I like something that you can like
pass down,
hold on to and pass down. Exactly.
Oh my god, that is incredible.
That's what I want to do with these. I kind of just like want to give this to someone. I want to give it to, like, if I have a daughter, oh my god, she'll be like, this will be like vintage. She'll be like the coolest girl in her class.
Wonderful.
Or I could give it to like my son, honestly.
Now I need to like purchase them so that I can do that for my kids. I'm like, look at these cool sweaters that I got.
It's just a fun idea, I think, to pass clothes down.
Yeah.
I don't know why that appeals to me so much. It's just very comforting.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I take my mom's clothes all the time. I have half of her closet from when she was in college, I swear.
That's amazing. That's like, but for me, it was like seeing pictures of my mom's clothes and being like, why didn't she hold on to this?
Like, what were you doing?
What was my 20-something-year-old mother thinking in her head?
Seriously.
Was she not thinking about how she's gonna have a daughter one day?
And she might want to give these to me?
Like, how selfish. But yeah, but this was like the project I mentioned in Italy, where I knitted for a designer. So she was like inspired by underwater organisms.
Yeah.
And she grew up in like an ocean town. And so she like learned to swim at an early age, and she was just like obsessed with marine life.
Yeah.
And just like the beauty of how a jellyfish will flow through the ocean, or the beautiful colors that coral has.
Yeah.
And she was kind of like trying to make this work with me that spoke about how, you know, these organisms are dying and the world is dying, and we should appreciate this beauty and also try to save it.
Yeah.
Not that this work is like contributing to saving anything in specifically, but it was more to like reflect the beauty of these beings.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. They're so like, I don't know how you did that.
Oh my god. It was like the most chaotic summer of my life. I got stitches in my hand, like deep in my left hand.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, I have to like knit this though. And like, I think I was supposed to even model for this, but so the designer I was working with, Eva, was like, we need to do this underwater. I'm like, what if it like ruins the clothes? I don't know.
Hey, wait a
Um,
second. I don't know if I'm comfortable with this.
I just, but there was like I just didn't know how to say no, and I also was like, well, I have to try.
Yeah.
And
Why
so
not?
I was gonna model for it, but because of my stitches, we like got a model. She
Uh-huh.
had a pool, and it was like a saltwater pool, luckily.
Mhm.
and we did this shoot
Yeah.
underwater,
So
just like crazy.
seriously, I'm like, I can't stop looking at it. They're beautiful. Oh my gosh.
They
Love that bottom one with the colors in the like.
yeah,
Oh my gosh.
they like this took so long to make. There's no way that you could even market something like this to sell with my following. At least it would be like $1,000 probably. It took so long. I don't like
I wouldn't want to recreate that. I'd be
I
like,
wouldn't
yeah.
either. But we did actually get a dead stock yarn, so it was sustainably made.
Yeah,
Actually,
that's really cool.
some of the yarn was dead stock. This like clear sheer was dead stock, so that was kind of cool.
That is super cool.
Um, and it like changes color. It like turned pink here where
Hmm.
the shorts are. It was that's just how the yarn was dyed. It was really cool yarn.
They're so
There's
unique.
more like film
Oh
shots
my god.
here. Dry.
That's incredible. That is seriously incredible.
Thank you. Oh my god. I think but I have more pictures. I'm
Uh,
just going to show some more, but I have to oh, I know what to do. Okay. I have to this is my nightmare. Is opening up these pictures. Okay. So I'm going to do new share and this. Okay. I got it. I
oh
hope.
gosh, are those the ones that you were telling me that were all inclusive?
Wait, do you see a picture of a girl on a ladder?
Yes.
Okay. um this pattern, yes,
Okay.
but this yarn wasn't sustainably sourced, so it wasn't part of the collab. This was just like a sweater I made for my store basically.
Oh my god.
Um but like this is what I mean by reaching out to anyone
Hmm.
in like answering your question of like what advice is like I went to high school with this girl and
Yeah.
she's an amazing photographer and I reached out to her. I was like, hi, like this is so random, but would you want to collab on a shoot? And she was like, I'd love to. And she took these incredible photos
Yeah.
for me.
That's,
Some of these I haven't posted yet because I'm saving them,
yeah.
but like I'm like obsessed with how she does things.
It's so cool for sure.
Um,
Oh, I
like this
love
one is
that. Oh
crazy.
my gosh.
She's so good.
So cool.
Um,
Where do you kind of see your brand going from here?
my goal is to invest in an industrial knitting machine. There's a Kickstarter called Knitterate
Okay.
where it's like an industrial knitting machine but much smaller. It's
Hmm.
still big. But it runs around like $10,000, which in the knitting machine world is nothing, which is
Are you
scary, but
serious? Oh my
it
god.
makes sense. Because
Yeah.
normal knitting machines are like 60 grand,
Hmm.
probably more. The software is like 20 grand. So I'm where I envision myself in the future is to get my hands on a machine like that
Hmm.
and basically learn their software based off of like the software knowledge I have. I'm sure that it's similar.
Hmm.
Um, and like make an all-inclusive line that's still like sustainable.
Yeah.
Um, and also I would like ideally want to be able to like offer internship opportunities for people or be able to be big enough to have a staff that because okay like with my experience with like wanting to knit in the real world it's
Mhm.
very hard, and it's very like um it's like I feel like it's you have to know the right people,
Yeah.
and it's not so much about like what your portfolio is and like what you want to make.
Mhm.
It's more about like who you know.
Yeah.
So I think that in my future I would want to be able to offer opportunities for people like me who just want to knit and just like want to be creative and want to have like a starting point.
Mhm.
If I, like if I were to be that starting point, that would be amazing.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's great. Thank you so much, Marta. I really appreciate you talking to me, and I loved having a conversation with you. You guys be sure to check her sweaters out. They're seriously incredible. Her website is novaxknits.com, and then her Instagram is at novaxknits, or no, at novax_knits. Check her out. She's incredible, and thank you so much again.
Thank you.